What is happening, sports fans? As we get the show underway, welcome back to San Diego Prep Insider. I am Christian Pedersen,
I'm Bodie De Silva.
and you're good with the mic. It's all fixed.
Yeah, I'll lower my seat. I won't break the stand this week.
Okay, fair enough. I am at Mr. CPEN on Twitter and Instagram, the host of San Diego Prep Insider. Bodie De Silva is the Scorebook Live reporter for the San Diego CIF section. Scorebook Live is the official digital sponsor for all the content statewide, but we don't care about any of that because we are a San Diego section show. That's what we are here to talk about. Bodie, we're going to talk top 10, but let's, at the very least, we need to address with people the fact that in the last week, Christian takes down Cathedral Catholic, takes down
Parker,
Parker,
span of 20 hours.
in a span of, so at a Friday game, Cathedral Catholic, Saturday, the Battle at the Bay, which is a great event. Thank you again, Marshawn Cherry, for putting that on. But things go nuts. So here was the top 10 at the start of the week. Cathedral Catholic still remains in number 1. Torrey Pines, number 2. They move up. St. Augustine, 3. Christian, after all those wins, jumps from 8 to 4th. Francis Parker at 5, Poway 6, Foothills Christian 7, Mater Dei Catholic 8, Helix number 9, and El Camino number 10. So let's just get to it. Does a team actually deserve to be called number 1 anymore?
Yeah, I would have to say no. I struggled with it, putting my top 10 together this week. Ultimately, I put Cathedral there. I just thought, if there's no one to move over them, I'll keep them in that spot. But it's an exciting time as we move into the playoffs because I had Christian at 7 the week before, moved him up to 4. Great 2 wins, but the body of work, I couldn't justify, hey, you can't really go from 7 to 1 in just that time span because you got to look at the weeks previous. Saints obviously took Christian down twice, and they lost to Cathedral twice. So a lot of chaos there. Torrey Pines got a big win over Foothills Christian. Christian's win against Parker was really impressive because Parker was up 20 early in the second quarter there. So to work their way back.
You mentioned body of work.
Yeah.
I will take the opposite stand of you. You say there's only one, there shouldn't be a number 1. Why shouldn't Christian be number 1? I say Christian should be number 1.
Yeah.
You say body of work. We don't have any undefeated teams in San Diego. It's not like there's one squad out here with a resume just being able to say, look, like just because we don't have a signature win doesn't mean we aren't the greatest team. So, okay, 3 wins or 3 losses, 4 losses, 5 losses. I'm not going to say that maybe an 8 or 10 loss team, but Christian Patriots, 5 losses on the season. That's not a standard deviation away from any of the other teams in this conversation. So why can't somebody move from 8th to 1st? Yeah, it sounds like a big jump.
Yeah.
But we're also here where you're saying there shouldn't even be a number 1. So I don't see where you can't jump through that gray zone and go from 8 to 1 in 1 week.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that held me up from moving them higher than 4 necessarily was they've lost to St. Augustine twice within the last few weeks, and St. Augustine was a team that maybe they should move down because they're coming off a loss to Cathedral, but when they've beaten Christian head-to-head twice recently, I didn't see at this point them jumping ahead of them.
Okay, so 3 of their losses this season are against Saints.
Correct.
Sometimes in basketball, can't you just attribute that to these guys just aren't they just have our number?
It's just not a good matchup for a Christian team that is pretty much guard oriented, one real big, and a Saints team that their 2 best players are forwards, Chibuzo Agbo and Luke Hopp. So obviously that's not a good matchup, and they got Cathedral on their senior night. They played really well. You got to give them credit for the win.
So I would flip it, and I would say that them losing to Saints, like you're saying, even though it's recent, is less of a factor because 3 of their 5 losses are to Saints. If that was diversified and that was losses to Saints, Bonita, and San Ysidro, or Saints, someone in the Southern, like just any other teams of that case, I'd be like, okay, this is a bigger indicator that this team has a variety of ways that they can lose a game.
Yeah.
But just losing repetitively to San Diego's version of Giannis Antetokounmpo maybe isn't actually an indicator of, like I said, anything other than just those dudes aren't the ones that you want to catch. So that's where I say Christian, jump from 8 to 1. They could have jumped from unranked to 1 if they had that same week. I argue, though, that when you're talking about the chaos of it all, that's why I think Christian should be number 1 because you can cut through that.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and I got to give Christian credit because I went back and checked out my preseason top 20 that I did before the season, and I had Christian at 19.
That's always a dangerous.
So I clearly didn't see it coming. The rest of the top 10's been pretty close to accurate, but you got to give credit to Christian. A huge win there on senior night. They backed it up Saturday, and it's a team that they're fighting as you get into playoffs. Likely won't have a home game in the Open Division, but it's a team that I know nobody in the Open Division wants to play because it's a group that has all seniors except one player, so they've been around and they know how to play.
Here at Prep Insider, we do a lot of work on social media with the polls. We like to have this, it's not a live show like it used to be, but still interactive a little bit. So at SD Prep Insider on Twitter and Instagram for the polls. I want to add this there. How many spots can a team jump in a top 10 in 1 week? We will just put that out there, like 3, 5, 5 plus. When you beat, are going to be our options maybe.
When 2 of your wins in the week are against number 1 and number 3, it's definitely going to help you. With the losses ahead, obviously we talked about. So
Bodie, anything else in that top 10 though? Because at this point, it almost feels like seeding is not going to largely be relevant. It might be exciting in that, cool, dope, like Poway snuck a home game, or like Christian gets that matchup against it. Like there's a little jostling minutia of it, but is there any team, El Camino now been there for 2 weeks? Is there any, last strike poised like that you're looking at, or is this just sort of let's not pay attention to this for the last 5 days of the season? You're just going to watch more like league champs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think there's 2 that come to mind. The first one, El Camino, like you brought up, they're not going to make the Open Division, but it looks like they're pretty much locked in at the 2 or 3 seed in Division 1. It's a team that's won 15 of 16 games since the start of the new year, so they're playing really well. Ray Johnson returned as coach this year. He'd been gone after being there for tons of years and one of the all-time winningest coaches. So they've made a really impressive jump, and I would say, in my opinion, that's the Division I favorite at this point. The other one that is a huge game coming up on Friday night is the rematch of Francis Parker against Foothills Christian.
We'll talk about that later on the show in one of our segments called What's Good. That will be amongst other things. We got a bunch of great stuff coming up. We got playoffs to talk about that are already happening, that are going to be happening, all sorts of stuff like that. CIF has a new commissioner. We'll get to a chance to talk about that. We'll give out our game balls. Bodie, anything on the closing of the top 10 before we? This is nothing, right? This is too much of a
at this point we'll get brackets Saturday and be done with it.
Deal. That's where we'll pick up with you next. So swipe over if you're on the IG, or keep watching if you're on YouTube.